If you had told me at the end of the 2023 season that after the first 3 races of this season we'd already be questioning if Daniel Riccardo was going to keep his seat, well, I wouldn't have believed you. The time has come again for the rumour mill of Formula 1 to begin creating tension in the paddock, with this time it being Daniel Ricciardo under the spotlight. The New Zealand Herald released a news post relaying some rumours that Helmut Marko had given Ricciardo an ultimatum about him remaining at the second seat at VCARB. Now, from what the rumours are saying, Marko's lazy eye was starting to move over away from Ricciardo to, of all people, but Liam Lawson. You might be seeing why most of the F1 internet really doesn't believe this. This mystery pressure from Marko came with a timeline of only 2 races before Daniel gets the boot and Lawson gets the seat. So where do I stand? Well, I believe it could be true, but not to the level of 2 races maybe, on the surface at least. Though that does sound pretty harsh, even for Red Bull. But, as I keep thinking, more news has started coming out about this, with Daniel even reacting to it with this. In terms of noise, people tell me, like in the media, they're like, oh, so-and-so said. It's the first I've heard. It's obvious, no disrespect to the media, but I know that I'm on this little process or journey at the moment, and I just need to focus on myself. If I let any of the noise in, it's going to kind of distract me from the path I'm on. I haven't let any of the negative stuff creep in. Now, this is the right mindset for Ricciardo to have, if he wants to pick up the pace and keep his seat safe. But I believe it would be fair to say that there are a lot of things that could make a good case for why Daniel Ricciardo might lose his seat. These first 3 races haven't exactly been the best. Bahrain, of course, ending with the fireworks between both him and Tsunoda after the finish, which was more of a team problem than a driver problem, or at least a Daniel problem, as Yuki wasn't exactly very good at following team orders that I believe would have helped Ricciardo. Besides that though, Bahrain was a quiet race, which of course led to Saudi Arabia, which was probably the best example of why people are questioning his seat. He was slow. Like, way too slow in fact. He was out-qualified by his teammate, then he was a mile off in the race, with him 2 times being on screen, with those 2 times only being when his teammate was part of the Magnussen train and was trying to get past, but even with Magnussen going close to 2 seconds slower through the lap just in Sector 1, Ricciardo was still not up to the back of the train, with the other time he was on screen being when he had the most pathetic spin of the whole season on the exit of Turn 1. Like, it's not even Turn 2, which is usually harder to get right. But all this when Tsunoda probably was on for points if it wasn't for the K-Mag train. His home race in Australia wasn't any better, with him looking like he was going to be fast and get into Q2 before he decided to park his car outside track limits, losing his lap time. And this was just the start, with Ricciardo wasn't able to capitalise on the top teams having their cars blow up on them and finishing the race in P12, with his teammate making it out of Q3 and finishing the race in P7. And the only reason Daniel didn't finish any lower was because the only other cars were slower than him, being the Alpines, who the internal drama everybody knows, and the Saubers, who haven't been fast for years now. The reason why I believe these couple of bad performances are having a much bigger effect than possible people believe is because this situation is starting to look eerily too much like last year's Nick de Vries situation. I mean, look at it like this. Both Ricciardo and de Vries are or were drivers that people believe could get a chance or more than a chance in Formula 1. In de Vries' case, he was seen as a rookie, as this was his first full-time seat in Formula 1, but people had their hopes up. After a race at Monza the year before, Nick had been seen as the next big driver. Plus, with him winning the Formula E title and the F2 title, he had the making of a future Formula One driver. But then you take a dig a little deeper and find out that Nick only won his F2 title after his third season in F2. And that race at Monza was probably the best race to take it over for, because the car he was driving was the Williams, which is known for being crazy quick in a straight line at a circuit like Monza. So even if he didn't have F1 history with Mercedes, before this, plus the race at Monza and his titles, you could see De Vries as this bag of questions waiting to be answered, and answered they did become, with, of course, that race finish in Monza looking like a fluke, with Nick De Vries never coming close to Tsunoda in either qualifying or race day, with himself having a couple of pathetic crashes, like the one at Baku. So, while yes, the choice to take Nick De Vries out of the car was the right choice, you could say that we could have seen this coming. Now let's look at Ricciardo's case, and things are starting to look worse than before. Ricciardo, of course, has a history in F1, and a lot more than others on the grid, in fact. Him winning 8 Grand Prix, and not just with one team, plus was able to match, or even beat, a young Max Verstappen on his day, so it makes sense for him to get a second chance after being dropped by McLaren. He came back after a testing session, where no one even knows what the real lap times were, then comes back with a race performance that was pretty damn good at Hungary, but then had a pretty mid-race at Spa. Then, of course, the whole Aussie Civil War crash happened at Zandvoort, which put him out of the drive, until he came back with a pretty bad race at COTA, but then a great race at Mexico, which I think made us all forget that after Mexico, Daniel would go on to get 0 more points for the last 3 races, with Tsunoda beating him both times that he was actually able to finish, with him DNFing in Las Vegas. Then we add on this year. And well, you might start seeing this from where I'm seeing this. If we do only look at this season, yes, 2 races sounds crazy, but if you look back to Brazil, the last race, realize that Daniel hasn't scored a point in 6 races. And then you do the math. With Ricciardo coming back the second time at Austin, and then you put these races up until now, plus 2 more races, oh look, it's 10 races. The exact same number of races that Nick De Vries had before he was dropped by Ricciardo. Coincidence? I think not. And add on the fact that his history would make us think that he'd be able to go quick in a Red Bull designed car, but he hasn't. So maybe there is somewhat of a possibility that this could happen. And yeah, sure, it's only after 2 more races, and that would be very early, considering this is the very early part of the season, but with a young and now points-proving driver like Liam Lawson in the back, and with Tsunoda pushing like hell to get points in a car that definitely doesn't deserve to be there, instead of it being Perez that's getting the better, it seems Daniel Ricciardo might be the one to lose his last chance in Formula One. So, what are your thoughts on this whole Daniel Ricciardo rumour situation? So go tell me down in the comments below. And please make sure to like and subscribe so that you can help me be one of the first to push me up towards 100 subscribers. I've been Connor, signing off.